So now that we know how to solve every quadratic equation under the sun, we want to put that skill to some good use in some applications. So we have a word problem here. It says, suppose that y equals negative 2x squared plus 280x minus 2000 represents the amount of money raised for a charity at a fundraising dinner where X tickets are sold. Right, and they ask us first to find the y-intercept and interpret it in context. So this one we actually don't need to solve a quadratic equation for, just kind of getting used to the formula. Finding y-intercept means plugging in x equals 0, so that's going to be pretty easy. So I'm going to come up to my equation, and everywhere there's an x, we'll plug in a 0. And I get a bunch of 0 and a negative 2000. All right, so they want us to interpret this in context. So we want to talk about what X stands for and what Y stands for and make it make sense with this Y equals negative 2000. All right, so it tells us this equation represents the amount of money raised for a charity. So that amount of money raised is going to be our Y. That's what the equation stands for. And then they tell us that X represents tickets. All right, so we plugged in X equals 0. So we plugged in X equals 0, and we got Y equals negative 2000. Right, so X equals 0 means 0 tickets. So this y-intercept is telling us about what happens when we sell 0 tickets. So when we sell 0 tickets, our Y, our money raised, is negative $2,000. That's not a great situation for the charity, right? They don't sell any tickets. They, of course, lose money. So they have to put down deposits for the venue or something like this. They make investments that they're hoping to make back as they sell their tickets for their charity fundraiser. So we'll say that when 0 tickets are sold, the charity loses $2,000. All right, let's stick with the same equation and answer another question. So same exact setup, but the question this time is, what number of tickets sold will result in raising $7,000? So remember, in the last question, we identified that X refers to the number of tickets. So when they're asking you what number of tickets, they're asking you to solve for X. And then they tell you that you're raising $7,000. So this is your Y value. Right, so it's telling us to go to the equation, plug in y equals 7,000, and then solve for x. So I'm going to go up to my equation, plug in y equals 7,000. And we want to solve for x. So that's a quadratic equation. We're going to get 0 on one side. I'm not going to want to factor this. I can already tell by the size of the numbers in this problem. I'm going to want to use the quadratic formula. But let's go ahead and get 0 on one side. So let's subtract 7,000. And we get 0 equals negative 2x squared plus 280x minus 9,000. My next step is going to be optional. I'm going to go ahead and divide everything in this equation by negative 2. It looks like all those coefficients are even, and they're also huge, so it'd be nice to kind of knock them down a little bit. And also, whether you're factoring or using the quadratic formula, it's always easier if your x squared term is positive. So let's divide everybody by negative 2. And over on the left, 0 divided by negative 2 is still 0. So we get 0 equals a positive x squared. Middle term becomes negative. That's going to be 140. And then a positive 4,500. Right, and then I'm going to plug into my quadratic formula. So let's just remember what our quadratic formula is. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so my b is negative 140. So I'm going to have a negative 140 plus or minus the square root b squared. So we're going to do negative 140 squared. Make sure you square the negative as well. Minus 4 times a, which is now a 1. And my c is 4,500. All divided by 2a. So 2 times 1. So I've got 140 plus or minus. Let's see what's inside that square root. Grab my calculator here. So I've got negative 140 squared minus 4 times 1 times 4,500. So I've got 1,600 under the radical divided by 2. All right, so let's do these two answers. I'm going to do the one with the plus on top. So I'm going to do 140 plus the square root of 1600 divided by 2. And I get 90. And then when I do the subtraction, 140 minus the square root of 1600 divided by 2, and I get 50. So this is a little bit strange. This says if we want to raise $7,000, we can either sell 50 tickets or 90 tickets. Let's go over and look at the graph of this equation on Desmos and see if it gives us any insight. All right, in its current format, no, the graph does not give us any extra information. The y-coordinates on this function are so huge that you just can't see it in the regular zooming window. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit on my y-coordinates. See. Okay, so I'm getting a little bit of something. Let me zoom out on my x-coordinates, see if I can see what's going on here. Zooming out. So there's a lot of zooming out. Oh, I'm starting to see something here. All right, so I zoomed out a lot, and we were trying to figure out how many tickets, that was our x-axis, how many tickets we would have to sell in order to get $7,000. So I can graph the line y equals 7,000. All right, and you can see where that is. That's up there at the top. And we got two answers, and it looks like this line hits the graph twice, and probably it's going to tell us, yeah, it tells us that when we sell 50 tickets, we get $7,000. And it tells us when we sell 90 tickets, we get $7,000. So this might make sense. It might make sense that you would start gaining a lot of money at first, but then as you sell more and more tickets, maybe you have to go to a bigger venue. It's more costly. You have to buy more stuff, maybe hire more celebrities to attend your event to make many more people want to come there. So your expenses might go up as you sell more and more tickets. So you could sell 50 tickets and expect $7,000, or you could sell 90 tickets and expect $7,000. So both of those can make sense.